Hello everybody, this is Bwammo from DragTheBar, and today's video I will be going over, well, the focus of the video rather, is short stack play and survivability, making sure that we can keep going on in the tournament. It seems kind of obvious, but so many people don't pay attention to it properly. And I'm just going to skip through hands that aren't necessarily good enough to play here. Some people might raise twos here. I don't like it. I like to raise a hand that maybe potentially I can actually, see a flop where I'm not the worst possible card or hand that hit. Every single board is going to be dangerous, so I'm basically continuation betting with nothing, so I might as well be raising with 7-2 offsuit here if I'm going to raise this. And I can't limp it because I'm trying to hit a set against a tiny pot, which doesn't make any sense. Looks like I sat out here for a little bit on accident. Usually the early part of these tournaments, there's a lot of folding, a lot of waiting. Especially when you don't get hands, and that happens. Sometimes just you won't get hands in the right spots. People will be raising in front of you. Just situations don't arise that let you actually steal chips. And right here is a situation where about half the time, maybe a little more than half the time, I'll go ahead and raise it. And I highly suggest doing that because of how weak the small blind limp is. Depending on stats and player history, it's fine to just go ahead and check here. Maybe if you feel like they're going to set you up, or if you feel like they're just not the type of player that's going to limp absolute complete garbage, like they're going to limp something they'll call a raise with. But usually that's not the case, so I would advise raising here most of the time. And I checked, so I'm sure that was a mistake. And that's not a very good flop, clearly. So he checks. I could continue, or I could bet here to try and take this down, but if I checked pre-flop, then I probably was putting this guy on decent cards, so checking here makes sense. It stays in line with what I was doing. When he checks here, now I could bet. I did just hit a pair, yes. But the reality is, if I hit this pair and I'm good, I'm going to be good on the river too, unless, something terrible happens. Like a jack and he's got a 10, or a 10 and he's got a jack. But if you limp those kinds of hands, and I bet here, there's a good chance he's going to stay around anyways. So I'm not actually making him fold the hands that I'm ahead of, other than the ones that I'm going to be beating on the showdown as well. So it's probably best to just check this one here. And I do. And the 10 comes off, he checks. I have no reason ever to bet this. I'm not ahead of anything except for complete rags, so I'm not getting any value here. So I check through, and he had a slippery 9. He played that kind of weird, but I can understand why he did all of that. Got a raise in front of me, so that one's not worth playing. Here we got a raise to 300, and then a re-raise to 700. Okay, so a raise from early position usually indicates big cards, big pair, and then a re-raise usually indicates the same thing, big cards, big pair. So if there's two people on that kind of range, and I've got ace-queen, it's not even the best of the big cards, just go ahead and fold it. Oh, did a little table jump, looks like. And it folds around to, ooh, that guy has a huge stack. Okay, so normally I would advise raising it into limpers, but unfortunately I don't really, because I just moved to this table, I don't really know anything about this huge stack. I don't know if he's willing to call super huge raises for no reason. So that means that if I'm willing to raise this here, I should probably just shove it. And that's, kind of risky. It's like 15 plus big blinds that I'm be shoving. It's just dangerous to do that. So I'll probably just check here, see a flop. King 9's not a terrible hand to see a flop with. Not a good flop, not a bad flop. I could bet here, but again, he's got a huge stack. I don't know anything about him. He might just call and float with random cards and then just decide to bluff. I don't know anything about this guy. So I'll just check through. And the queen hits, and he min bets. If I knew something about this guy and I thought maybe he was trying to take it down, or maybe if I don't know anything about him and just get a feeling, I get a gut feeling that this guy's kind of full of it here, maybe I'll raise this to like 3 times big blind, or like 480, and it's going to leave me at 2,000. I'm still going to have 14 big blinds, so I'm fine there. And there's 480 in the pot, and I'm putting 480 in to win it. So if I think I'm going to win like half the time, that's a pretty productive little, raise. And when he's betting out here, it's like, what could he really have? Does he have an 8? That's basically it. And if he's got a 5, he might even fold to a raise. Maybe he's got a pocket pair, a low pocket pair. But then you got to think about the fact that he had a big stack and he's limping into me when he could have raised. So it's probably not a pocket pair. It's probably, a weaker hand. And that's just not a good spot. So we'll go ahead and fold. Okay. I am sitting here with like 15 plus big blinds. Oh, right at 15 big blinds. And I don't have that good of a hand. I know Backroad Burl is kind of a regular, so that means he's a little bit more likely to 3-bet. Then there's the fact that the big blind has a huge stack, so he might call a raise, he might re-raise. Like, there's possibilities beyond just shoving or, flatting. So I don't really have much to win here. I'm winning 10% of my stack if I shove, which is not, it's not terrible. It's okay, but it's not something you want to be doing every time with this many chips at stake, especially not with ace 3. The 3 is just a terrible kicker. Now, if I wanted to raise this, probably ace 5 would be necessary, maybe even a little bigger, just because of how big their stacks are, and I would probably have to go the full 3x to actually get some decent fold equity. Anything other than that, they might just consider it close to a min raise, and they'll just call with weak things. So I go ahead and fold that. Okay, we get a limper under the gun, limper in the cutoff, another limper on the button. Small blind completes, so now there's 1,000 chips in this pot, and I've only got 2,200 in my stack. Ordinarily, if I got a pocket pair, I'm going, no matter what. But when you're this deep, you can still wait. The antes haven't even hit yet, so it's not like really pressurized to have to shove here. When you have the opportunity to wait, you should, take a little bit more caution before shoving. So you got to think about the things that people might call with, things that people would have limped that they're going to call with, rather. Because if they're limping, that means they either have aces or kings and they're trying to disguise their hand, or they have Broadway cards that they're just hoping to hit with, suited connectors that they're just hoping to hit with, or small pocket pairs. Usually bigger pocket pairs would have raised at some point. So if we're up against small pocket pairs, and also there's the weak aces as well. So small pocket pairs, weak aces, suited connectors, and Broadway cards is kind of what we're expecting to see here.